There is a place where the chaos of the outside world cannot reach, but have you allowed yourself to explore this space? Within each of us exists a refuge of peace, an unwavering source of tranquility that many never access throughout their lives. Curiously, this space doesn't need to be discovered on a distant spiritual retreat or in the midst of exotic travels. It's within your reach at every moment. But why can't we see what has always been there? The answer may lie in how we direct our attention, a timeless teaching revealed by one of the greatest leaders in history, who, despite ruling one of the largest empires in the world, understood the true secret of peace. This leader, who faced wars, betrayals, and the weight of monumental decisions, knew that the key to serenity wasn't in controlling the outside world but in mastering one's own spirit. He understood that by turning our gaze inward, we find answers that the external world cannot offer. Yet many of us fear this inward journey. Why do we avoid facing our own minds? Perhaps it's because introspection demands an honesty that few are willing to confront, and it is precisely there that the power of this teaching lies. True strength is not in avoiding discomfort, but in facing it with courage. When we begin to practice this introspection, something extraordinary happens. The anxieties and uncertainties that haunt us in our daily lives begin to lose their grip. It seems almost magical, but there is a deep logic behind it. By confronting our own emotions and thoughts instead of being dominated by them, we become masters of our minds. Think about it. How many times have you impulsively reacted to a stressful situation, only to realize later that you could have handled it more calmly? Introspection gives us this clarity, allowing our reactions to be more measured, less dominated by the heat of the moment. But how can we start practicing this in a concrete way? The first step is simple, yet powerful. Slow down. In a world that pushes us at a dizzying pace, slowing down is an act of resistance. Every day, set aside a moment, even if brief, to disconnect from everything around you. And don't think of it as a luxury, but as a necessity. Imagine if you could handle daily stress with serenity, without being swept away by the emotions that arise. Does it seem impossible? It's not. But to reach that point, you need to cultivate the practice of introspection continuously. By incorporating this practice into our routine, something curious happens. Challenges that once seemed like insurmountable mountains become mere hills. Your perspective shifts. When we look inward instead of seeking answers outside, we realize that much of the stress we feel is actually a construction of our own mind. This doesn't mean that problems disappear, but our way of facing them changes entirely. And this shift in perception is what transforms our life experience. Now imagine what it would be like to start your day with this mental clarity. Many of us wake up with restless minds, already overwhelmed before even getting out of bed. Why? Perhaps because we neglect one essential detail: preparation. But what does it really mean to prepare for the next day? It may seem trivial, but small actions like choosing your clothes or planning your morning activities have a significant impact. This happens because by eliminating these small decisions, you save your mental energy for what truly matters. Think about it. How many decisions do you make first thing in the morning that could have been resolved the night before? And what would happen if you started your morning without this additional burden? This preparation practice is more than just a matter of efficiency. It allows us to begin the day with more serenity, creating space for introspection and reflection. And don't underestimate the power of this. When you start the day already balanced, it becomes much easier to maintain that state throughout the hours that follow. Instead of being caught off guard by unforeseen events, you are ready to handle whatever comes because you've already started the day with a clear mind. But this clarity doesn't come solely from planning. There's something even deeper that prevents us from finding peace. Constant bombardment of external stimuli. We are always connected, whether on social media, checking the news, responding to emails, or trying to keep up with the endless notifications invading our devices. What few realize is that this overload not only drains our mental energy, but also distances us from ourselves. By constantly being connected to the outside world, we lose the connection with our inner world. Here lies one of the most important teachings: the power of disconnection. And this doesn't necessarily mean abandoning technology or withdrawing from society. It's about creating moments of silence and disconnection, even if brief. Turning off your phone half an hour before bed, for example, may seem like an insignificant gesture, but the effects are profound. Think of it as a way to cleanse your mind before falling asleep. What would happen if, instead of being bombarded with information until the last minute before closing your eyes, you allowed your mind real rest? This simple act can transform your night's sleep and, consequently, the day that follows. But what happens when you disconnect? Many people are afraid of silence, of being alone with their own thoughts. However, it is precisely in this space that we find the clarity we seek. And what if, instead of fearing this silence, you embraced it as an opportunity for growth? This is where meditation comes into play. Meditation, an ancient practice, has the power to completely transform how we deal with stress and emotions. And the most interesting part is that you don't need to become a monk to reap its benefits. Just 5 minutes of guided meditation before bed can have a surprising impact. The question is, why do so few people adopt this practice if its benefits are so clear? Perhaps because they underestimate the power of something so simple. But the truth is, by calming the mind before sleep, you allow your body and spirit to enter a state of true rest. And what happens when you sleep deeply? You wake up renewed, with more clarity and energy. But meditation is just one of the tools available. There is another often overlooked practice that can be a game changer: physical exercise. Now you might be thinking, exercise at night? Won't that make me more agitated? Actually, no. Moving your body at the end of the day might be exactly what you need to release accumulated stress and prepare for deep sleep. And we're not talking about an intense workout at the gym. A brisk walk, some stretching, or even a few minutes of light exercise are enough to transform the quality of your rest. Exercise not only relaxes the body but also releases endorphins, chemicals that make us feel good. And when you end the day with a calm mind and a relaxed body, sleep becomes a true process of renewal. When you wake up the next day, you are ready to face any challenge with a new perspective. Imagine starting each day feeling rejuvenated with a clear mind and a balanced body. It seems like a dream, right? But it's something completely achievable with small changes to your nighttime routine. And this brings us to a crucial point: the power of nighttime reflection. Many of us simply end the day without stopping to think about what happened, what we learned, or the choices we made. But what would happen if you dedicated a few minutes every night to reviewing your day? This practice isn't about judgment or harsh self-criticism, but about learning. By revisiting your actions, you start to see patterns, both positive and negative, that often go unnoticed in the heat of the moment. And what can that teach you about your future decisions? Nightly reflection is one of the most transformative habits you can adopt. When you look at your day with honesty, without trying to justify or overly criticize yourself, you start to see what worked, what could have been different, and how you can do better tomorrow. This simple habit has the power to change how you live. And here's the most interesting part. By doing this consistently, you begin to become more aware of your actions as they happen. Instead of reacting impulsively, you act with more intention because you've already developed greater self-awareness. And this self-awareness is what leads us to the next level of personal growth. But this isn't something we do alone. We all need role models, figures of wisdom who inspire and guide us. Have you ever stopped to think about who or what serves as your example of virtue? Having a role model, whether a historical figure, a mentor, or even a concept of wisdom, gives us a compass. But the question is, are your daily actions aligned with this ideal? And if they're not, what can you do to correct the course? This kind of reflection is what leads us to live a more intentional life. By comparing our choices with the example of wisdom we choose to follow, we begin to move closer to what we truly want to become. This process of self-evaluation isn't a practice of perfectionism, but of constant evolution. And as we become more aware of our actions, we also become more capable of changing what isn't working. But this leads us to a crucial point. How can we view our lives from a broader perspective? Often, we are so immersed in our problems and worries that we lose sight of the bigger picture. This is where one of the most profound teachings comes into play: adopting a cosmic view of life. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to look at your life from an external perspective, as if you were observing it from the outside? What would you see? What truly matters? This shift in perspective helps us understand that many of the concerns that consume us are, in fact, small in the grand scheme of things. When we begin to see our lives as part of something much larger, we realize that we don't need to hold on so tightly to the small dramas and anxieties of daily life. This gives us freedom. Freedom to act with more clarity, less attachment to immediate results, and more confidence in the flow of life. Now you might be wondering, how does this apply to my closest relationships, especially my family? One of the biggest challenges we face is balancing our responsibilities and our personal relationships. With the pressures of daily life, it's easy to neglect those we love. But what would happen if you started to see time with your family as an absolute priority? And not only that, what if you lived each moment with them as if it were unique? This is one of the most powerful lessons we can learn. Life is impermanent, and the moments we have with our loved ones are precious. Yet many of us go through these moments without truly being present. We're distracted, worried about other things, or simply take for granted that there will always be a tomorrow. But the truth is, there are no guarantees. And when you start to live with this awareness, something changes. And finally, we return to preparation. Not just for the next day, but for life as a whole. By preparing the night before, by reviewing our actions, by caring for our minds and bodies, we are preparing for something bigger than just a day of work. We are preparing to live more fully, more consciously, and more connected to what truly matters. These Stoic teachings form the foundation of a more balanced and peaceful life. And the question that remains is, are you ready to apply them? The path is before you, but only you can decide to follow it. What will you do with this wisdom? Now that we've explored these profound principles, it's clear that the wisdom of leaders like Marcus Aurelius is not something that belongs only to the past. On the contrary, it has a practical and powerful application in our modern lives. Perhaps what you need to transform your routine, your mind, and even your relationships is already within your reach, waiting to be discovered. It's not external circumstances that determine our well-being, but how we choose to respond to them. Have you ever stopped to think about how you've been responding to the world around you? These Stoic practices are more than mere philosophical concepts. They are tools that anyone can use at any stage of life. If you adopt even a fraction of what we've discussed here, whether it's daily introspection, meditation, exercise, or nightly review of your actions, you'll start to notice profound changes in how you live your days. What seems simple is, in fact, transformative. But where to begin? Perhaps the first step is recognizing that the peace you seek is already within you. It doesn't depend on what happens around you, but on how you choose to handle the challenges that arise. If there's one thing Marcus Aurelius taught us, it's that no matter how chaotic the world may be, we can always find serenity by turning inward. Now, imagine applying this in your life. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and instead of being swept up by the world's agitation, you begin the day in balance. Your first action isn't impulsive, but intentional. You look at the day ahead of you and know that you're prepared because you've already practiced self-reflection. You've already considered your choices, and you've adjusted your mindset for what's to come. This is the essence of Stoicism, living each moment with full awareness, without letting the noise of the world distract us from what truly matters. And when we adopt this philosophy, when we truly integrate it into our lives, we begin to experience something different. The world may remain chaotic around us, but inside, we find an unshakable calm. Stoicism isn't about disconnecting from responsibilities or avoiding confrontation with reality. On the contrary, it prepares us to face it with courage and serenity. But for that to happen, we need to practice. We need to cultivate these habits in our daily routines until they become a part of who we are. So the question remains, are you willing to take that first step? Are you ready to embark on this journey of introspection and personal growth? The answer is in your hands. The path is already laid out. It's now up to you to walk it. And remember, changes start small, but if you persist, the results will be profound. The power of Stoic practice lies in its simplicity and consistency. It's a gradual process that requires patience, but the rewards are immeasurable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content on Stoicism, philosophy, and life practices that can transform your everyday experience. Leave a comment below about which practice you intend to implement first. Introspection, daily review, or disconnecting from external stimuli. I'd love to know what resonated with you the most. And of course, if you know someone who could benefit from these teachings, share this video. The more people who can apply this ancient wisdom, the more tranquility and clarity we'll find on our collective journey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.